All right, everybody, welcome to the SPX room. This is Trendy John. Let's go ahead and get started with our weekly overview, if you will. This past week, I thought it was very difficult. One of the things that I reflect back on was my overall enthusiasm after the election and the move up in the market. I realized yesterday I was just kind of going back through my trades and getting an idea of what I could have done better or what I shouldn't have done. And I just want to first off by saying that the market is the way that the market is, right? No matter what you do, whether you make good decisions or bad decisions, I think the catch 22 is it's fun when things are going your way, but it's really easy also to grade yourself, right? That's the thing is like the market is going to do what the market does, and you can go back and look at it and say, well, if I would have done this, but I'm really real with myself, and I understand that there's emotion. It could be a matter of moments where something looked amazing, and I said, hey, I got to get into this trade, and then all of a sudden the trade doesn't work out. So 2 days later, you go back and look at that trade, and you say, you beat yourself up. And the point is, the big point that I want to make is we do not want to beat ourselves up, but just have these reviews so that we have a reminder and maybe talk through them and understand what we did awesome and what we could work on. So let's go ahead and get started. First off, we ended the week very, very nicely. We had two awesome pin trades on the SPX that both produced 1,000% gainers, which would have been absolutely awesome if you took the opportunity to take these trades. I want to go back. I want to show you the chart, which is the ES futures over here, and then I want to go through the trade. So we're going to scroll all the way up to where basically I said, hey, it's Veterans Day right here. And this is where I want to start. So again, coming off a very, very strong week, we hit the ground running. We had nothing but wins last week. And the enthusiasm and the thought process for me is right here, making this high on Monday is where I came into the market and said, okay, I don't think we're going to go much higher, but I think that we can get between 60-20 and 60-40. And so I did an unbalanced butterfly that cost $225. And lo and behold, things kind of turned against me and it did not work out. So the debit that I paid here was lost on this trade. The time for SPX Social we had on the 14th was 6 o'clock. And by the way, thank you so much for coming in and being there with me. I think it opened up a lot of eyes, and I could tell on Friday that you guys were already taking trades on your own and doing very well. SPX butterfly update. So far, the 30-minute on the ES is going to a red momentum candle, and the gap has not been filled. We had a nice gain there immediately, and we really did. I want to say on that first butterfly, it was between $80 and $100, which at the time, I remember exactly. I was thinking, hey, I am going to take my profits on this trade, okay? And I've been here and done that, and that is the feedback for myself is like when you come off of a run that looks like this, you know, almost every single time you'll continue to see like maybe a little pop. And I always say that's the pop where if you did not take advantage of this run, this is where it sucks you in. And I should have been smarter on that side and said, hey, let's go ahead and take our profits because of it sucked me in. So it did a really good job, and I ended up losing on that trade. The next trade was a 25 by 50 by 75. I came in here, and I talked about buying the dip this morning for a later expiration. I still think we can see lower, so I left room here to add. Also, I am following a trade from my buddy JC, John Carter, here in the room. Not that it's his fault. It's just that him and I were in line with this trade. And so I really agreed to this. I love that we were buying Friday. And the idea for me was that we were going to come into Wednesday and start to see some sort of bigger move. And I was thinking in my head, we were going to rally back at least to about 88.7% of the high by Friday. But unfortunately, the market decided to actually dip deeper after Wednesday. I was correct in my thinking that the bigger move would come, but I can see that there's a theme here that my overall bias, although the technicals read very well, sideways to down, I continue to try and buy the dip. Now, listen to me. This is no excuse, but what I want to say is I don't stop trying. So basically, when the market has been bullish the entire year and buying the dip has worked for me, 85% of the time, I am going to try and buy the dip. But I want to point something out with these alerts, and that is the fact that with butterflies, when we talked about it in the Thursday night session, my big thing that I wanted everybody to understand is I get into butterflies and spreads to reduce my cost, okay? Because I'm thinking in my head, hey, these, I'm not 100% confident here, so I'm going to reduce my risk by paying less for something instead of going straight up with a call at the money and taking a really steep loss. So again, the SPX allowed me to feel confident in trying to buy the dip, and I ended up in the long run losing a little bit of money. And again, smaller allocations because these could have been straight up calls or puts that cost me a lot more money. Okay. All right. Trade idea. If we close in the lower ES green zone, I'll go long on 25 to 50 points. That was still on Monday. We actually broke through a couple green zones, so I decided not to do anything. On the 11th, let's see. Move on down. We'll get into the 12th. All right, so we come in on the 12th. Now, I remember this one quite well as well. This is going to be Tuesday. This was a beautiful candle. I was like, okay, we came down. We're going to pop here. And when we broke it into the smaller time frame, let's go over here. Let's make this let's just go to 15 minutes. And we're going to come over here to Tuesday. Okay, right here. So I remember exactly. I jumped into the trade. Everything was looking good. Again, the idea was we were going to continue to move up. We had just pulled back probably, a very small, shallow amount. This started to really make me feel like, yep, I was right. And so I took the debit spread. That debit spread was pretty expensive because I made it pretty wide from 6,005 to 15. And again, this one ended up not working out. So again, the bias being, hey, let's buy the dip. It doesn't work out. Another trade idea I like today is an iron fly, sell the 5885s and make it 15 wide. I believe I don't like saying a lot. I saw a few traders in the room who took this idea and ended up making money on that trade. So that's great as well. And I will give ideas sometimes if I feel like I have too much in my account, because please remember the bot that's reading my API, so my whole portfolio, is extracting the SPX trades and putting them over here. But I also have several positions that I'm trading in my overall portfolio. Okay. So if I feel like I have too much on, then I will also throw ideas out here and write them out just in case any of you are looking for a different sort of setup. All right, so on Tuesday, on the 12th, going back to the daily, TOS was really, really laggy. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. I was having a hard time executing some of my other trades, and I knew right away, hey, this doesn't look great. And then this was after, the initial onset of the room our next week. So this was our second week. And I said, I'm going to put a trade with a tight stop. I need to make sure it's reading all my data. So be prepared to see this. Some traders in here felt as if this was like a, hey, don't take the trade. But I want everybody to remember, you got to click the question mark in here. And so when you come down here and you see that I buy this put, right? I say right up here, okay, this looks a lot better on the straight up position. So I just want to make sure the information was reading correctly. I'll put a take profit at 7 and my stop is at 0.5. John, what are your thoughts on the call credit spread? Someone asked. Somebody says working. And I was giving information on, how to trim and so forth. And then later on, I had someone say, oh, I didn't realize this was a trade that you wanted to actually take. And my feedback was, hey, anything you see in here, guys, is an actual trade. It's real money. This is not a paper account. anything like that. These are executing and sending to you immediately. But anyways, this trade ended up being a nice little win as well. And of course, it probably went a lot higher than this. But I also wanted to take the profits because I had already taken some losses earlier in the week already. Okay. Moving on down, join me on the mic. I talk a little bit. I want to talk about that really quick. This is not an education room, and I will jump on the mic every once in a while. I will not make a schedule as of right now because I don't want there to be any expectation with that. I'll send out something, or you'll hear me pop on the mic and you can join me if you want to. But this is not, the room is just an alerts room. But as I said during the webinar or during the meet and greet, that I like to come in and give some information. If anything changes, if I make a schedule, I will alert that out and say, hey guys, you can meet me here every Wednesday at 7 o'clock, yada, yada, and we'll go from there. Okay. All right, so another SPX, we come in here, we have some puts on. This is on Tuesday still. We get in for 35 cents and come in here. Let's just click right there. You know, I went ahead and said, hey, this is where I want to put my trims. I placed those in there, and you guys can see the rest. Limit order that's resting. This will be an add to our existing Friday trade. So I put this on. This never executed. We gapped down big time, so I decided not to add into this trade. This would be later on in the week. This is that Friday trade that I had really liked the idea of it working out, but again, never added at $1.50, which probably saved me a great amount. Come in here. We're trimming the SPX puts at 57%. Ask you to join me on the mic again, and then we're moving on down. And then we get into a 6,015 call. This is me buying back the body of the butterfly that I believe we put on Monday. That did not work out at all. And like I said before, I ended up taking the $200 and some change loss. And then we come in on Wednesday. I open an iron condor. Now on this iron condor, let me see here. So here's Wednesday. We had Monday, Tuesday. Here we are, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. This was an iron condor, and we did the 6,000, 6,010, 6,059.90, and just kind of moving down. And then we come in on the same day, a couple hours later, and I'm like, you know what? Things are feeling kind of bullish. Like, let's go ahead and put on another, butterfly. And I was looking for Thursday. I was feeling really bullish, like things were working out. We're starting to get that pop. So I'm buying for a butterfly into this day. All right. And you can see that we're getting the pop. Things are looking good here on Tuesday. And of course, this ended up not working out as well. So over here on the iron condor, we ended up taking money off of this to $170 a contract. Remember that when I first put on the iron condors or an iron fly, it's going to, if you're brand new, it doesn't cost me $8. Anytime you see the word iron condor, think that this is the amount I could make. So I actually, my risk on this was only $2. Okay, so $200 I could have lost. And usually if you come in here, it's going to tell you, what that is. Okay, and right here, Alex he had brought this up as well in here about how this is actually like an 80% win. If you were to think of it from a $200 risk perspective, I actually made almost $200, so almost 100% on that trade. Okay, so another good trader or good trade. And then we come in here, we do a 20, 35. Like I said, I was getting bullish. I'm like, yep, I'm right. This is going to work. And of course it did not work, guys. You know that. And then over here, like I said, took the $170. Let's move on down. We did a 95 by 6,000, 6,005 call. This was one of those really tight fives. And you guys can see we made money on this one as well, 116%. Great trade again. And moving on down to the 14th. So 11, 12, 13, 14 right here. We're coming in 6,035. This is me buying back the body of one of the butterflies that did not end up working. So basically, the bullish butterflies did not work this week. Our biggest trades were the actual put butterflies that ended up working really, really well. All right, moving on down. So I decided to do something a little bit wild. I would say, like I said, in the room, if you go to the notes section, I want to be aggressive. I don't want to just take one trade and sort of sit on it. So I'm going to take a couple different ideas and trades. This one's a little bit more expensive than the rest of them. This one, I was risking $900 and things went bad really fast. But I felt like being more comfortable and allowing the trade to work out for me. And I ended up, we're still not closed on this, but overall, I basically lost what I thought I could lose. And it was okay because I already knew how much I was going to lose before I took the trade. And that's something I explained as well during the Thursday night session. Okay. All right, so come back in here. We're going to, on this bounce, I'm going to try and get filled on a tight butterfly put to pin. This is the one that I was really proud of because on the 14th, if we go to a smaller time frame, all right, and it's going to be, and let me just make sure that I'm right on my numbers here. The 14th was Thursday. So right here, I remember this. This is where price bounced up into the cloud. I took the trade to the downside, and these ended up making 1,000%, if not more, depending on what you held to. And I remember the room was on fire. Everybody was super excited, and things looked great. Yay, yay, yay. Trying to forget about the bad calls that I took earlier in the week. I'm really hung up on those, if you can't tell. But again, that's just kind of what happens when you're a trader. You kind of beat yourself up. But overall, I got to keep executing. That's what I did. And then we started. Oh, I want to go over this part because this part was a great lesson to teach you guys. I said mistake here, put in my orders for 0.6, but didn't register. Be sure when you put in your trims that you hit enter after you put the number in a couple times to make sure, and then read it and say, you know that you're reading this the correct way. I didn't do that, and I just hit confirm and send, and it trimmed my position at 0.3, which was really frustrating because it didn't give me the opportunity to try and pin it later on in the day. So we take our 100% gain, and then it gets to 400. I say, hey, if you want to close it, I'm being stubborn. And I really was at this point. It was a little bit later in the day. I'm like, I'm going to hold this bad boy. Nothing could take it away from me. Try and pry this SPX from my claws. And they did, they did. And if I just would have held, I would have made over 1,000%, but I made my 433%, which was a great trade. And then I did an IB broker alert when we did our Thursday night session. I set a limit order at 2.1. This was in my interactive broker. This one did not work out. It worked perfectly. It was $4.20 when we were looking at it, and I got some questions. Hey, how did you know to put it at 2? And I explain in here in the note section. It worked perfect. When we woke up, it was actually up a couple bucks, and I left it alone. And then Friday kind of showed its ugly self. It immediately broke down, and guess what? Things didn't work out so quite well. All right. So, but they did. So instead of perseverating on the fact that that didn't work out, I had to be a trader. I had to come in and make some money. And that's exactly, I feel like, what I did. I did add to this. Why? Because at this point, the original iron fly that cost me $900 and doesn't look like it's going to work unless we have a huge relief rally this week. I said, okay, I'll add to it, so I'm going to lose $1,000 if this ends up not working. But I thought it was a great risk reward. But now when I look at it, it's kind of like one of those things. You go out, you wake up early in the morning, and you're like, what did I do last night? It's kind of how I felt about this trade. It's like, yeah, it's only $100, but now when I look after Friday's damage, we have to move by Wednesday like 200 points, which is just absolutely. The probabilities are probably less than 1%. So I'm going to have to chalk this one up as a loss. Again, I understand we still have 3 days, but it just doesn't feel right. And so I apologize about that trade. Coming down here, this is really cool. What I want you guys to take away from is my ability to read the market. On the ES futures chart at 9 o'clock in the morning, I already, after looking at my analysis, knew exactly where price would bounce. I drew the Fibonacci on the charts for you. I did the arrows, and then I said where it would stall. And it did exactly that. These cost 95 cents and they went to a total of like $9.33. I was at Sam's shopping with the wife. And I have to tell you, it's very difficult on a phone to manage a butterfly trade. I could have just left my original order to get out. And that, that would have saved me a couple bucks, but it also would have been amazing just to leave the damn trade alone. Okay. But anyways, we ended up making $230. I did $230 a contract on here. And I know that several of you done really, really well on this. So I hope it helped to kind of help the cushion from some of the losses that we did take. Overall, my portfolio is actually green this week, not just on SPX, but my overall portfolio, but only by just a tad. It was not a beautiful week. I had some great trades and I had some losing trades. My overall win percentage in all of my trading this week went from the week before, I had a 77% win rate. Far as in here in SPX, I had a 100% win rate. And then this coming in this week, my overall portfolio, I had a 52% win rate, which is really common during chop that I come in around 50 to 60%. Half of my trades are good ideas, half of them are not. And we kind of saw that in the SPX room. Okay. SPX trades were about the same. If you go back and look at the winners and losers, basically around, a pretty smaller win rate. My overall sentiment, how I did this past week was I allowed a little bit of my bias to come in that we could continue moving higher. And I really think when we look at the overall formations and the best way to approach a big move up is exactly this. You have a high, and I teach this in Trendy all the time, and it's if this then that. If anything, it's better to come in here and sell call credit spreads for a small amount of money. And if we can't get above there, whatever, we collect the premium and we go home and go, hey, we didn't buy a bounce. Instead of thinking that we can move up, the better thought here would be if we could have held, then come in Tuesday and be bullish. But we couldn't hold. We made lower lows. We made lower highs. And the rest of the week played out exactly like my broad market analysis from last week. Sideways to down until proven otherwise. So going into this week, of course, I'm watching the ES futures. I don't want to go a lot into that. What I want to say to you is watch my broad market analysis. That's on my YouTube channel. You can watch that, and that will help you understand. You could fast forward it if you don't want to listen to any of the stuff in the beginning. You could fast forward it to the future section to get a better idea of the levels, what I'm thinking, and so forth, okay? So overall, not a bad job, guys, but I have a little bit of work to do coming into this week. Melissa is back from leave, and it will allow me to do a little bit better concentration on some of my premium charts, as I missed a couple awesome put setups that happened on Thursday and Friday. So hopefully with a little bit more focus this week, things will be okay. All right. Now, one thing before I end, just like last week, this was a big move up. This was a bigger move down. There could just be consolidation here. So patience is definitely key. But again, please watch the broad market analysis to help you out. All right. We'll see you soon.